Hi, good afternoon. This is Jack Kelly with the Compliance Exchange, Compliance Search Group, Compliance Jobs, Compliance X newsletter and blog. And I'd like to bring you up to speed with what's happening in the market, at least in the job market, as of today, which I think is February 2nd. So we got through January, which was a really wild ride on many fronts. But for this purpose, I really want to focus on what's happening with the job market. So, this is the time of year where people are starting to pay close attention. By now, either you had a review with your manager, maybe you received a raise, maybe you received a bonus. Perhaps you're expecting that conversation where you're going to sit down and go over any potential raises, promotions, bonuses, and unfortunately, in some instances, some people are being shown the door, and I'm not trying to be flippant about that. It's that kind of environment. It seems that coming into January, all of a sudden, the economy really started to look ugly, and that has, in my opinion, a huge impact on the job market in your career. When things are good, when things are hot, when the stock market is doing well, the economy is doing well, it's much easier for firms to give raises, to give promotions, to hire more people, because by the nature of things going well, there's more of a euphoria, an enthusiasm. And when there's an enthusiasm, think of your own life. If things are going well in your job, in your career, in your spouse's job, and his or her career, you're more apt to take that next vacation. You're going to buy that new car, maybe take an extra trip. Very similar to companies, where if they're doing well and the economy seems to be doing well, they're going to hire more people. What's happened coming into January, it's wild how just a turn of the calendar changes everything. The mood kind of is dark, and I think you all know what I'm talking about. You feel it. And it's where overnight the realization China's not doing well, emerging markets aren't doing well. While you may be saving at the gas pump, oil companies are doing horrible, and oil is plummeting. Any securities related around oil securities are doing horrible. Banks that are involved, with that area are doing poorly. And then you have that contagion effect where you start thinking, hey, if these people are being laid off in the oil sector, and if China's not doing well, what's going to happen with any business, that's connected to it? How are they going to do? And so on. So the ripple effect, I think, permeates everything. So now in January, there's that kind of unease. I don't think we're in that fear stage, but you definitely have a little bit of an unease about, hey, where's this economy going? Are we heading into a recession? Are we heading into something a little worse? Or is it just a blip, that the stock market, the economy, for not everybody, for a lot of people have been doing well for the last 4 or 5 years, and maybe it's just had its run and it's going to, just plateau and not really go anywhere. So when you take all these uncertainties, where I don't think anybody out there could say right here, right now, things are awesome, things are terrific, things are wonderful, well, you're left with, all right, well, what's really happening? Is it going to be okay? Is it going to be good? Is it going to be terrible? Is it going to be fair? But none of the adjectives are such where, yes. So it's translated into, when it comes for raises, for promotions, for bonuses, what I'm hearing from people that we're speaking with and anecdotally is that this year is fair. I know that's such a lame word, but really that's what's happening. I'm not seeing accounts of people coming to me and saying, Jack, I got a great bonus. This is fantastic to beat out the last few years. I have a fantastic raise. I just got a promotion. It's really more of people saying, meh, okay, nothing to write home about. People who are waiting for their raises, bonuses, promotions, what have you, are nervous because they don't know what it's going to be. It doesn't help when every day you see, the market is up a couple hundred points, down a few hundred points, up 100 points, down 200 points, where, that kind of uncertainty, unknown about what things are happening, makes companies and managers kind of hold tight a little bit. However, that being said, for our core audience, which is really comprised of compliance, legal, risk, audit, and related regulatory professionals, thank God, fortunately, they're in demand. They're needed. A lot of firms, whether in the financial sector or general corporate America, I don't want to say these jobs are bulletproof, but they're needed. It's almost like if you have a city that's doing poorly, let's take a Detroit that's really in a bad state. It's very hard to say, okay, let's fire all the policemen, let's fire all the firemen, although there are instances of that happening there, but let's fire everybody, let them go, we're not going to hire anybody. It's very hard to do that. So even if you try to do it, you get a lot of pushback. Probably Detroit was the wrong answer, wrong place to say, because I think they are doing that. But generally, let's say New York, it's not going to really happen that much because they need it. The same thing with compliance-related people. These firms know it. Are they happy to be hiring compliance people? Probably not. They'll say they are, but really, are they happy? They rather save the money. Are they happy to be giving more money and raises them? Probably not, but they know they have to keep it. And that's because of all the new rules such as Dodd-Frank and Volcker Rule and what have you. And then also between the political pressure, the public pressure, post-financial crisis. Even though now we're about, 8 years away from 7, 8, losing count of time of the financial crisis, it still weighs heavy on people. And there's still pressure on firms not to let this happen again. So within this area, it's almost like a bubble. I don't want to say it's immune from the market as a whole, but you definitely get a feel that this whole area is given a pass almost, saying, hey, where other areas, let's take Wall Street, for instance, traders, salespeople, well, they could be replaced by, let's say, technology, algorithms, computer systems. Maybe we won't need them. There are other folks like that where you feel could be dispensed with, whereas with compliance, they not only they know they need it, but it's always been so thinly staffed that it's never enough. So even if you want to cut, it's cutting to muscle. You don't have enough to cut. So what we're seeing coming into the new year, we've been seeing jobs come in across the board. We've seen jobs come in the financial industry and outside the financial industry. We've also started this year ComplianceJobs.com, which is a job board catering to, as you can tell by the name, pretty original, compliance-related, positions. And on there is a great microcosm of what's out there. You could see jobs from Twitter to Facebook to Nike to Uber to the big banks to hedge funds to big pharma to old industrial kind of companies. So, and then you see jobs both on the recruiting side and from the job posting at all different levels and geographically dispersed, which to me is always a really good sign. It's always a good sign where the jobs aren't only centered in one area, that you could then say, well, but for the fact of that type of job, the job market is really not so great. We're seeing it across the board. We're seeing it whether it's in New York, whether it's in Florida, whether it's in Chicago, California, and also we're seeing it in London, we're seeing it in Singapore, Hong Kong. So we're seeing all these kind of jobs that are out there where they're looking to hire. And everything from chief compliance officer roles to general counsel roles to staff level and everything in between, which is great. To me, that's a good sign. What I think is happening, though, the process of which people go through to get hired is much more elongated. So it's a very slower process. When things are hotter and the mood is better, it pop, Firms would be very quick to respond on a resume, very quick to bring somebody in for interview, very quick to have a second, third interview and give feedback. What I'm finding out now is the tempo is much slower. You send a resume, you may not hear for a while. They'll pick up and interview somebody, then you don't hear back. Some time goes by, bring them for a second interview. Then it's quiet, hear a third interview. Feedback, not so much. And that's a frustrating thing for candidates, and I appreciate that and respect that. And I think one of the reasons why, in my opinion, is they don't know. They're afraid to give feedback because they're not sure. Are we going to keep this job, not keep this job? Are we going to move forward with this job, not move forward with this job? Are we going to hire this person, or maybe we're going to wait and get someone cheaper? So I think they don't want to box themselves in, but rather than being forthright about it, they just don't say anything, which is very troubling, very challenging for candidates. And I really feel for them because it's tough when you take that time and effort and energy to go and you don't hear back. It's just horrible. But I do see that happening, the whole process taking much longer, much slower, much more deliberate, and the firms are looking for these perfect plug-and-play candidates. And I've talked about this in other podcasts, where to find someone who has the exact criteria. They'll have a checklist, almost like, let's say 10 points in that checklist. It used to be a firm would say, all right, Jane Doe, maybe she has 3 of them, but she's smart, motivated, we have good references, we'll give that person a shot. Now, not so much. Now they want to find 9 out of 10, 10 out of 10, 12 out of 10. They really want to find somebody who could come in there, and if they're going to pull the trigger, could hit the ground running. All that being said, here we've placed a number of people. So we've seen people being placed. I see in my LinkedIn feed, in addition to us placing people, they're being placed out there, which is great. So they are hiring. The pace is slower, but they're hiring. Another trend I'm seeing are counteroffers. It seems that firms, maybe, again, going back to what I'm saying about a little bit of the concern and fear factor, is that, hey, if we lose this candidate to the other firm, maybe we're not going to get that headcount again. Or maybe we'll get the headcount, but it's going to pay much less. So we're finding firms are saying, you know what, let's just do whatever it takes to keep that person, because we don't know if we can get the funds to replace it. And if we do, maybe we're not going to get as much and we're going to have a lesser person. So we already know this person, let's keep him. Now, that might sound good, but there's a cost to it, because that person who could have maybe moved to another job, a better job with a better future and more money, may not do it because they get scared and they stay where they are. My experience, when you stay where you are and take that counter offer, it never works out. Well, I shouldn't say never, but it hardly works out, because what happens is like a relationship. If someone strays, this is going to sound silly, but if someone strays, it's hard to change it. It's hard to go back to where it was. When a person is leaving, the firm will say, I'm sorry, we didn't know. We had so much things planned for you. We were going to make you this. We were going to give you this promotion, this money. I'm sorry. Just like in a relationship. I'm sorry, sweetheart. I'm sorry, honey. Here's flowers. Here's candy. Here's chocolate. I'll change. I'll be different. And we all know what happens. It doesn't change. It goes right back to where it was. And I think the same thing happens with these firms, where it just goes right back to where it was. So now you've prevented that person from leaving and getting a better job and moving forward in his or her career, which if they really cared about the person, they would let them go, but they keep them because selfishly, and I'm not even saying they're bad people, but selfishly, they know if they don't, they're going to have to do more work. They're going to have to take on the responsibilities, or they're going to have to get a lesser person that may or may not work out. So they just feel that pressure. Let's keep them, which is end up hurting them in the long run. And then not only does it hurt them because they're probably going to put themselves in a bad spot, but every time they come in late or leave early or take a long lunch or wear a new suit, you know what everyone's going to think. This person's looking, and the resentment's going to build, the awkwardness is going to build, and it's going to be very uncomfortable, and the person's going to end up leaving, if they can, for a lesser job. So to sum up, what's really happening here is a unique time. It's just amazing how quickly it happened. You went into this new year, and the global events, whether it's the economy, the stock market, just all the political unrest in the Middle East and other countries, the refugees in Europe, I think made everybody take a step back and say, oh my God, what is happening here? It made all the businesses worry about where are we going? And that filters down to the job market. As I said at the beginning, when you have that worry, that anxiety, that fear, you're not going to be as apt to hire quickly. You may want to hold off hiring. You may not pay as much. And that was kind of seeing that vibe for, outside of compliance and when I say compliance, regulatory, legal, risk, audit, credit, financial controls, all those areas. Outside of that, without a doubt, is happening big time. In this cocoon that we're in, we're somewhat buffered because of, as mentioned, the need for compliance and you just don't have, that fat to cut. So it's quasi-immune, not completely immune, but quasi-immune. And it's slowed. It's definitely put a little slow on it, and it's going to be really interesting to see how things, move forward. I would love to say I'm so smart that I'm going to know what's going to happen next, but I don't. I definitely welcome, opinions from everybody in the audience, and our audience now is over 100,000 strong worldwide, so we really get a great perspective of what's going on. And it's really, while my recruiting still is maybe, really focused on the Wall Street banking and finance area, our audience gets the newsletter that's on our LinkedIn groups are really diverse in terms of the industry that they're involved with, and our job board is diverse. So I would love to get your input, because it's we deal with really intelligent people, really thoughtful people who have an insight. I mean, I'm hoping for, I don't know what I'm thinking, but I'm hoping that this is a bump in the road. I'm hoping that it's a collective gasp of, hey, we've had a big run, things have been going really well for a while, and a little bit of nervousness of perhaps kind of a pullback to see where it's going, hit a little bit of a correction, and then business goes on as usual. Maybe a little bumpier, maybe a little slower, maybe a little bit more cautious, which in a way can be healthy, but still continues moving forward. At least that's what I'm going to tell myself to keep myself happy and sane, because otherwise I'll be miserable. So I think it's going to, keep moving forward, a little bumpy, a little rocky. And one of the real reasons I'm sharing this, because again, I'm just, trying to make sense of it all like everyone else. But I do feel for hiring managers and applicants when they're involved with the whole process, because when they do it, they're doing it alone. A lot of times if you're looking, you don't want to share with a lot of people what you're up to. If you're hiring, you kind of also keep it somewhat confidential. So you're operating in a vacuum and you're not sure what's going on. So the only thing you could think of if it's slow or things aren't happening, you're not getting feedback, is, oh, it's me. It's my fault. There's a black cloud over my head. Someone is bad-mouthing me. I think one of the vital things that I really love about doing this is that I can kind of share my collective knowledge, and it's again not because I'm so smart, but just talking to people day in day out, you get a feel for what's happening and what's on people's mind and what they're thinking, and so I know that people individually worry what's going on. So this way is my way of saying, hey, no, it's not just you. It's not, you're not going through this alone. This is across the board. The experience you're sharing it with thousands of other people. It's just that they're not talking about it because they don't feel comfortable talking about it, because they don't want to say, hey, I'm not getting a call back for an interview. I'm not getting called back on my resume. I'm not getting a third interview. I'm not getting feedback. It's awkward for them to say, so they don't say it. So you're thinking you're alone, but I can assure you, this is what's happening now, which hopefully is a little temporary, but as I'm saying, we still made placements, still made hires, still getting new jobs in. But that's the good part. Everyone can handle that. I'd rather prepare you for the bumps in the road. Everyone can handle the great job offer. Well, the more money, the more opportunity, the more growth, going to a cooler firm, going to a better firm, moving forward your career. Because that is absolutely happening. But you could deal with that when it happens. I just want you to be comfortable and or at least understand, what's going on when that doesn't hit or takes a while to hit. So you don't feel like, this is terrible, I'm throwing in the towel. To be confident, to move forward, to look for your goals, try to achieve your goals, not let these roadblocks stand in your way, and just know, hey, they're kind of temporary, but these are shared by everybody, and things will move forward, and you'll have that great opportunity and hopefully get that great raise and promotion and new job. And as I mentioned earlier, please feel free to call me directly. If you have any thoughts, add anything, it's Jack Kelly, the Compliance Search Group. My number is 212-997-3166, and my email is jkelly, JKELLY, at compliancesearch.com. And you can find us at compliancex.com, compliancejobs.com, compliancesearch.com. Thank you very much for listening. Have a great day.